When I addressed Council last fall, I brought to your attention that there had been several bylaws passed by previous councils years ago furnishing the city with the wherewithal to force slum landlords to meet minimum health standards, thus no need for any new bylaws. Housing advocates have been calling on the city to enforce these bylaws for decades. Why hasn't that happened? The present mayor and his fellow councillors have previously engaged in redefining what homelessness is and isn't, and have recently partaken in the redefinition of low-cost housing. As CCAP announced, unfortunately the homeless count this year is not that much better than last year, 1,803 to 1,746. And next year, the city is only expecting 45 new units for homeless people to open up. The city opened up 157 units of the Quality Inn to house homeless campers from Oppenheimer Tent City, but it will be closing next year. Let's do the math. 1,746 plus 157 minus 45 projected new units equals an increase in homelessness to 858. So basically, despite attempts to redefine homelessness, the social housing and the homeless rate count continues to rise. Include another 300 SRO units lost to development like what happened last year, and the homeless rate hits 2,158. This is not governance. This is not representation, unless you're a developer or a condo king. This isn't even ineptitude. This is pure indifference towards the people you were elected to represent. The fine won't apply to landlords as they actually have to be removed from the SRA bylaw. Of course, there are a number of actions that the city can take that will improve this situation. First and foremost, the city could actually make affordable housing an actual priority rather than a mere election item. The city could, for example, assume the role of the developer instead of depending on the private system and individuals to meet criteria for low-income housing. The city could explore zoning for affordable housing and not the kind where the other 70% of the units are market rate. The city could institute rent controls and ban rent evictions. The city could enforce the laws and bylaws already in place to force landlords and owners of rental properties to adhere to the health standards that are currently law. The city could and should be innovative when it comes to what city lands and which city buildings might be utilized for housing right now. The city could engage neighborhoods and communities to help find solutions, although this would only be useful if the city actually listened to and sought community-based solutions. Otherwise, such inclusion is nothing more than a facade. We are not reinventing the wheel here. Cope campaigned for these solutions all through the election. We have an affordable housing crisis precipitated by an artificially inflated real estate market. While 50% of us rent, only about 3% of our housing is designated social. Other cities in the world, such as Stockholm or Vienna, have anywhere from 30 to 80% social housing, owned and maintained by the municipality. Let's face it, a $10,000 fine for being homeless is not a practical approach to reducing homelessness. But the city has had bylaws for nearly 60 years, giving them full power to enforce changes to places of lodgings, hotels, SROs, etc. But they have ignored these bylaws and instead recently claimed new and improved bylaws now give them the powers that they've had since 1956. It should be evident to all that Vision Vancouver is suffering from a myopia with regards to affordable housing and the plight of the homeless. The mayor pledged to end homelessness. Instead, it has risen to the highest numbers in city history. Vision Vancouver is completely unconcerned with the affordable housing crisis, and their lack of focus on the issue is quite frankly unacceptable. We are all citizens. The residents of Vancouver are being ignored in favor of the developers who bankroll their campaigns. This is not a mayor and council for few for the people. It is a cabal of the few for the few. That Vision has broken their promises to the working poor and the homeless after proceeding to vote themselves raises. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. Think about that. They are rewarding themselves despite their obvious failures, while in the surrounding streets, homeless numbers continue to skyrocket. Worse, BC Housing is at risk of losing its existing social housing as the operating agreements for these providers will expire in 2020. It is paramount to bear in mind that what we view as problems, such as homelessness and the greatest issue of affordable housing, are in fact simply challenges, and that the solutions to these challenges are neither mysterious nor beyond our capabilities. All that is required is the desire to find solutions and the willingness to act. Homelessness is not confined to a neighborhood. It affects us
Okay, that's your time. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Caitlin Sigalo, followed by Jacob Sesman.